Lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for speaking to me. This series just made me happy. I
Oh,
can't
that's
explain.
lovely to hear.
I learned so much, but I was just you ever watch something and you don't pay it, you don't know that you're just taking, you know what I mean? Like time has passed because it's just so good. That's what it is with this series. I love everything about it. But what I want to talk to with season 2 is we're going to Europe, and I wanted to know the planning process behind the locations, and also there are some discoveries that not everyone knows about. How does that work?
In terms of how do we choose where to go and
Yes,
what to do there?
yes.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, we come up with a lot of countries that we think will be fascinating and interesting to go to, and we send a scouting team out there to go on the ground and have a look and try and find the most interesting people with the most interesting stories, essentially. And they come back from that scouting mission, and we look at all the things that they've tried out there, all the people that they've met, and they've often made little videos of their experiences, and we put together what we think will be a really eye-opening and enlightening agenda for Eugene in those countries. And then Eugene has a sense of where we're going, but not always exactly what we're going to do. But he will obviously know which country we're going to. But then broadly, we've got to the point now where he's incredibly trusting of us as a production team, and knows that whatever we're going to put in front of him is going to be sort of fascinating and interesting, and hopefully will open his mind to something that he's not seen or tried before. And then what we try to do is set those moments up so that we're ready to capture whatever happens, and to make sure that we can be able to follow whatever reaction Eugene has. He can take it in whichever direction he wants to. The idea really is that we've done so much preparation that we're all prepared and set for Eugene then just to sort of walk through that journey and react as he wants, so that then as a viewer you get a really authentic response from Eugene, and we're not in the way of that, if you like. So all the work is up the top to try and make it all feel as seamless as possible, so that Eugene can have the most authentic experience that he can.
I was wondering, since the success of season 2, has there been people that reached out to you from different countries and said, "Hey, come visit us"?
Do you know what? There has actually. There's been a few people that have been in touch with us from various tourist boards and things like that. Saying that they massively welcome the reluctant traveller in their country, and also when we've spoken to journalists, when Eugene is doing press, and when we've done some interviews, there's definitely been the odd journalist, quite a few from Australia, who've taken the opportunity to say, "We'd love to have you over here. If you get the chance for season 3." So it's amazing. Now we're in a position where people know the show, and that they want to welcome Eugene into their country, and that's very, very lovely and rewarding to hear.
How do you find that balance between finding a place that people don't really know about, but also making sure that it's not too isolated, so say other people can go too?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting and really important. I think what we try to do is, if we're taking Eugene to places that everybody knows about, and maybe quite a few people have experienced, then we'll try to find fascinating stories that you might not have uncovered there before. But also we're trying to appeal on the show to everybody, from people who were as reluctant as Eugene to travel, right through to people who have traveled, a lot. And so we try in each episode to cater for that broad range of people, transporting everybody off their sofa, whether they're very unlikely to go there themselves, or have been there before, or are about, feel like after watching the show they might book a ticket and head there. So it's that balance, I think, of exploring a place through Eugene's eyes for the first time, which is really enlightening, but also ensuring that for people that do know a little bit more about travel, there's still interesting takeout in the episode. And I think just through the people that we meet, we manage to do that, and through the things that Eugene learns, you vicariously learn those things too, whether you're a seasoned traveler or whether you're a complete novice.
What I love also about this series in general are the people. I love the stories. They're welcome, and you come into their home. You learn about their culture and their food. And so what I wanted to know is for season 2, was there a particular personality or certain stories that you were looking for that kind of had a common thread, but were diverse enough for season 2?
Yeah, I think that was it was interesting that because it was obviously a north to south journey throughout Europe, but at the same time we wanted to find as diverse stories as we possibly could, and diverse experiences, diverse landscapes, diverse people, and I think we achieved that. There was a very different people that we found in Sweden at Midsummer compared to that we did on a small island in Greece, and I think we were very keen to ensure that still every single episode had its own very unique identity. And you're completely right. The thing that gives it that identity are the people that live in those places. And Eugene always, first and foremost connects with the people that he meets. And it's amazing to see those relationships blossom on screen, and you can feel Eugene getting a huge amount from the people that he meets, and it's extraordinary to go to all of these places and to be welcomed with open arms into people's literally in some cases into their front rooms and their homes, and in other ways when they guide you through their country, incredibly proud of their practices and their cultures, and so yeah, that's a real privilege for us, and I think it's something that Eugene definitely doesn't take for granted. It's an amazing thing for everybody to open up their country to him, and you can see that it's incredibly enriching, and very often that's the take home for Eugene. It's the attitudes and the warmth of the people that he's met that are the thing that sticks in the mind, I think, and I would hope also for the viewers.
So I was wondering, we have the different countries that we go to. We have the 7 ones. You explained about how you started each one of them, how that works. But what I wanted to know was the itinerary, say for the day. How does that get whittled down? Because you can't go to every, say, hotel. You can't try every food. So is there a main point that you have that no matter what, you have to take Eugene to?
We try and try and not to sort of have it incredibly formatted so that you don't feel like he has to do this thing at this time and he has to do this thing at this time. What there is, obviously, the sort of bare bones of what he goes and experiences, and also what I think people love about watching the show. There is usually an extraordinary hotel in some way, shape, or form in the episode, and don't we all love to sort of look around, extraordinary hotels around the world? So that is a bit of a touchstone and an important part of the episode. But from there, the joy is, I think, that through the people that he meets, he's guided through an experience which isn't necessarily replicated in every country. It's very bespoke to each country that he goes to. So, often there's a little bit of fun to be had with food, because Eugene, like his travel, he would admit himself doesn't have the world's most adventurous palate. So there's, if you've seen the French episode, he manages to spit out an oyster before it's even touched the back of his throat, I think. So sometimes food is obviously interesting, but he's very game to try these things. But I think really we're led by what it is about that country that feels so unique and so special, and we find that when we go to scout these places before, and the people that we meet, and often the people that we meet say, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this on this island, and or in this country. And so we're quite often led by what it is that the local people want to show off about their country, and also want Eugene to experience. And sometimes that is just the most delightful, unbelievable natural wonder, and sometimes it might be something that is quite counter to something that Eugene's experienced before, and there's some fun in that, I think. But Eugene always says, and he's absolutely right, that wherever there is comedy or fun, it's very important that the joke's always on Eugene, and Eugene will always say that. We always want to be as generous to our hosts as they've been to us, and so there's no finger pointing or fun to be had in local customs. We're very respectful of those, and if Eugene struggles with them, it's because he's the issue, not the custom itself.
Has there ever been a moment that has gone completely awry off schedule?
Off schedule. Let me have a think if there's been anything. Well, do you know what? It wasn't off schedule, but it was unexpected, and it turned into one of the most memorable moments in the season, I think, which was in Spain, and it's when Eugene meets Hector Bellerin, a very famous footballer who plays for Seville. And he meets him the day before. They practice on the pitch. Eugene takes a penalty against him and gives Bellerin a move in case he scores the next day at the big local derby. And then Eugene goes to watch that game in a local sports bar. And Bellerin scores, and in front of 70,000 people does this move that Eugene has taught him the day before. And so that's not something going awry, but it's something you could never possibly plan for. And it's a bit of that documentary maker's luck, I think, that happened at that moment. But what's amazing is just the absolute authentic excitement that you can see in Eugene's face. And so that's where sort of capturing moments that you couldn't possibly write is one of the joys of the series.
And was there any lessons learned from season one? Now it's season two, you're seasoned to know what it is that you want as opposed to season one.
Do you know what? I think it's more generally that we and Eugene are just more comfortable with the, Eugene's more comfortable with the not only the process but the actual. Well, he still doesn't love the travel, but certainly sort of the idea of traveling. And as he says in season one, I think he says that he's become a junior member of the World Travelers Club, and so you can see that it's affected him, and that he can see that travel might broaden the mind. And so there's a real gung-ho spirit from Eugene in season two, in terms of rolling his sleeves up, getting involved, doing some things that he would never ordinarily do, and because he can see that it's beneficial for him as well. And so we hope that just keeps continuing, and season three is even more extraordinary because of it.
So lastly, I want to know, what have you learned, either as a documentarian on this journey or just as a regular person, interacting and going to these different places?
I mean, I love travel, and so I'm the polar opposite of Eugene. And I suppose I knew this before, but it's really shown me making this series that sort of just having a go at things and just saying yes to things can be incredibly rewarding. And I think, and seeing Eugene, who at the time of filming was 76, doing these things, I think just shows 76 and somebody who wasn't really widely traveled or that curious about the world, and yet here he is doing these extraordinary things throughout the season. I think that's a lesson to us all, really, that A, it's never too late to give it a go, but B, just say yes to some things. I'm aware, and we're aware of how privileged we are to make this show and to go to these extraordinary places. And so it doesn't have to be something that is far-flung or particularly expensive. I think just having new experiences, it's really underlined that grabbing those with both hands is definitely the order of the day.
Wonderful. Do you feel that it's fair to now call it the less reluctant traveler?
Eugene has a phrase. He sort of describes it as, if you're standing 6 feet away from a wall and you go halfway towards the wall and then halfway towards the wall and halfway towards the wall, you never reach the wall. So I don't think he'll ever not be a reluctant traveler, but he certainly can see that there are benefits to it. But travel with Eugene Levy to an airport, and you'll see that he remains reluctant about the entire process of actual travel. But I think he now can totally see that getting over that hump and actually being in the place is well worth the effort.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me. A delightful series.
Thank you so much for watching and for your enthusiasm. It's much, much appreciated.